Hi, I'm Stefan from Mix66 and in this series I want to show you the difference between real recorded drums and programmed drums. The goal of this video series is to give you, whether you're a music producer or in a band, an overview if you should record your drums or just program them. And in the end, I will also give you my take on this topic. So the way I want to demonstrate the difference between real recorded drums and programmed drums is by a drum cover of Bring Me the Horizon's Happy song from their album That's the Spirit. I recorded the song once with my real drums and I also programmed them using GGD Modern and Massive, a very commonly used drum library. After I have decided to use this song for this video series and I have started creating these videos, I thought, well, maybe I should have taken another song because Bring Me the Horizon uses a lot of samples to augment their drums. So Bring Me the Horizon doesn't have a 100% natural drum sound. But then I thought, well, maybe exactly this kind of production is perfect to show you whether it is worth to put the time and effort into a real drum recording or if you should just program your drums straight away. So first of all, let's take a look at what is needed to record drums and also what does it cost. I will give you the prices of the equipment that I have used so that you have a reference and so that we also can compare it to the programmed drums. But of course, there are always cheaper solutions, so don't think that you need this much money to make your first drum recordings. So of course, to start your drum recordings you need drums. In my case, it is a custom-made kit from DS Drums, which cost me, including the snare, about 2,500 euros. Then you need heads for them, which cost another 150 euros. Then we have some cymbals. I just used 3 cymbals in this recording, which cost about 400 to 500 euros. You need hardware to put your cymbals on. This was another 300 euros. Then you need sticks, and with 15 euros you can get great sticks. Then let's talk about microphones. The microphones that I have used have a value of about 2,500 euros, but I'm not counting the Neumann SM69 microphone that I used for the room, because that is a vintage microphone and that alone would cost you about 7,000 euros, so we leave that out. Then you need cables to connect your mics to the mic preamp, another 150 euros. Then you need preamps, and when recording drums you need a lot of them, so I have 2 units with 8 channels per unit. Both of them are about 700 euros, so it is 1,400 euros. Then you need an interface to get this signal into your laptop, another 400 euros in my case. Then of course you need a room to record your drums in. Well, in my case this is a room in my flat, which I turned into my studio, so I don't have to pay any extra for it. But for this calculation I will also calculate about 500 euros of room acoustics. I've put much more in this room, but for this demonstration purpose we will limit it to 500 euros. So if my mathematics skills are good enough, then we should end up at the price of about 8,300 euros for the setup of the drum recording. This of course doesn't include the laptop or anything, because these are things that you also need to program drums. And as we are speaking of programming drums, how much did it cost me to get a great sounding drum library? It was 70 euros. I bought the Get Good Drums Modern and Massive library during sale and that cost me 70 euros. So we have 70 euros against 8,300 euros. So to record real drums you will have to spend about 120 times as much. Of course you can always buy cheaper stuff, but there are also some free drum libraries out there, so you could also make your first drum productions without spending a single extra dollar. And I don't think that you will get free drums, free microphones and everything. But anyway, next point we have to talk about the time. Now the way I create drum covers is the following. I import the song into Reaper, find out the BPM or the tempo, set the tempo in the Reaper project, then I open another track, insert a drum library plugin on that, and then I start transcribing the original to a Midi drum track. I do this also when I'm recording real drums so that I have notes that I can play to. The awesome thing is that I can open up the Midi on my screen and it follows along as I record the drums. So transcribing the drums took me about 30 minutes. And at that point, the programmed drum cover was already done. In GGD Modern and Massive there is a knob where you can turn the raw signals into mixed signals. And if you turn this knob all the way up, you don't need to mix your drums anymore and you have a finished programmed drum track. Then to record the real drum cover I had to learn the song, which took me about 1 hour. I had to set up the drums and all the microphones and tune the drums. This was another hour. Then I spent only 15 minutes recording it, and I have to admit I should have made more takes, but I only noticed that during editing and I didn't want to go back and re-record some of the parts. But yeah, I just spent 15 minutes recording the song, then I spent an hour editing my recordings, but I also explained the editing process while I was doing it, so maybe without making the video to the editing process I would have been faster. And then finally I mixed the drum performance in about 45 minutes. So all in all it took me 4.5 hours to create the real played drum cover versus 30 minutes of programming the drums. That is 9 times as much for the real drum cover. Of course, it could be that you have a great drummer who doesn't need any practicing and can nail the song in the first take, but in my case these were the timings. And as I said earlier, I wish I would have invested more time in recording and also in the setting up and tuning my drums. But I also think the way I did it was more realistic, because as a music producer or band you don't have the time and budget to spend a whole day shooting out 55 different snares, trying different microphones. You just use what you have there and try to make the best out of it. So now that you know the setup of this little, let's call it, experiment that I did, what's my take on it? Well, I think if you have the time and budget to record real drums, then you should absolutely do it. Search for a great sounding live room, record the drums then, and you will have a great sounding drum recording. You will have the organic sound of real recorded drums, and then later during the mixing process you can always add samples so that you have the bunch of programmed drums. By the way, if you are looking for great sounding drum samples to augment your drum recordings, then click the link in the description and you can download my drum samples for free. But what if you don't have the equipment, the time, the budget whatsoever to record real drums? Then just program them and move on. Many fans won't even notice the difference between real drums and programmed drums. And I also think if you take the time and money that it would cost you to create a real drum recording and put that somewhere else, it would take your career further than a real drum recording does. And that's true whether you're a music producer or in a band. So this was the first video of the series Real Drums versus Programmed Drums. Check out the next videos where I record the drums, edit them and mix them, and then of course check out the 3 videos with the final results. You will have one video with the real drum performance without any samples, one video with 100% programmed drums, and then you will have the third video, which in my opinion is the best one. It is the combination of a real recorded kit augmented with drum samples. Tell me in the comments which version you think is the best. I would really appreciate if you could support this channel by subscribing, and thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.